Tim Cook is officially handing over the keys after 15 years as CEO, and Apple just casually scrapped a rigid balance sheet rule they have followed since 2018.
Yeah, and they somehow managed to set a March quarter earnings record while doing it.
Right, so welcome to Earnings Unscripted. It is April 30th, 2026, and we are unpacking Apple's Q2 results, ticker AAPL. And just a quick reminder, this is not financial advice, just two people sharing personal opinions, so please do your own homework. But Mira, we have this massive transition to John Ternus coming in September, which is huge, but the actual numbers today are, well, kind of complicated.
Complicated is one word for it. Look, revenue came in at $111.2 billion, which is a huge sequential drop, down 22.7% from the holiday quarter. But, and this is the important part, it is up 17% year over year. So the seasonal step down is completely normal, but the underlying machine is still accelerating.
Yeah, I mean, APS landed at 2.01, down obviously from the 284 we saw last quarter, but like you said, a literal record for the March period.
Right. But what actually caught my eye wasn't the top line. It was the margin mix. Gross margins actually expanded up to 49.3%. That is heavily driven by services, which just keeps defying gravity. They hit an all-time record of $31 billion. But then operating margins contracted sequentially down to 32.3%.
Which feels a little disconnected. The core product sales cool off post-holidays, but services is just an absolute cash engine. And the market seemed completely torn on how to price all this. The after-hours action was honestly all over the place. The stock dipped briefly under 269, then spiked violently above 283 during the call, and then just faded out. It still finished up roughly 2.3% from the prior close, though.
I mean, that volatility makes total sense if you look at the moving parts. You have a 15-year legacy CEO stepping down, which always shakes investor confidence, and then at the very same time, the hardware business is eating legacy competitors alive.
Oh, you mean the MacBook Neo? Because I actually love this detail. Tim Cook pointed out that Kansas City public schools are literally mass dumping all their Windows laptops and Chromebooks to switch thousands of kids over to the Neo. It is just such a crazy real-world shift.
It is a ruthless land grab. They lock users into that ecosystem in high school, and it pays dividends for a decade. But honestly, the thing I'm most fixated on is the cash mechanics. Kevin Parrick officially announced they're dropping the net cash neutral rule.
Wait, they have had that rule since what, 2018? Basically trying to balance their massive cash pile to exactly match their debt, right?
Exactly. And now Parrick says they want to evaluate cash and debt independently. That is a massive financial doctrine shift. It tells me they're looking at the capex needed for this AI cycle and realizing they need to keep their pockets very deep without some arbitrary accounting rule forcing them to buy back stock just to shrimp the balance sheet.
Okay, so they're gearing up for something heavy. There's clearly a lot more hiding under the hood here between the cash rules, the margins, and this huge leadership handoff. Let's just get right into the details.
There is definitely a lot hiding. And for me, the biggest red flag is actually buried in their operating expenses.
Right, because they missed their own guidance ceiling on that.
They did. They spent $18.9 billion, which is actually, it is a straight-up miss on their own guidance. And Kevin Parrick blamed it completely on an unnamed, quote, one-time expense in SG&A.
Just an unnamed expense. I mean, selling, general, and administrative is a huge bucket. That could be literally anything.
Exactly. It is a black box. You miss your own ceiling by that much, you are talking serious money. It could be a quiet antitrust settlement. It could be, I don't know, restructuring ahead of the broader AI rollout. The point is they just swallowed it and did not elaborate at all.
Okay, so they brush a massive expense under the rug, but you look at the gross margin and they expanded it up to 49.3%, which looks fantastic on paper.
It does look incredible, up 110 basis points. Except it's kind of an illusion. You have to look at the underlying component costs.
Right, the memory pricing.
Yes. Carry-in inventory saved them this quarter. They basically had older, cheaper components on hand to absorb the hit, but that buffer is gone. Cook was incredibly explicit about it on the call.
He was, actually. I have his exact wording right here. He said, and this is a direct quote, "Beyond the June quarter, we believe memory costs will drive an increasing impact on our business, and we will continue to evaluate this," which is I mean, that is CEO speak for this is going to hurt.
That is exactly what it means. It is a violent swing in component pricing, and it gets much worse when you look at their physical supply chain. The MacBook Neo we were just talking about.
The one the Kansas City schools are buying by the truckload?
Right. They are severely supply limited on it. Cook pointed out the bottleneck is specifically at the advanced nodes their system on chips are produced on. So it's not just memory getting expensive. The foundries, mostly TSMC, are choking on the sheer volume of these new M-series chips.
Wow. So they finally lock down the perfect hardware for a local AI. They get this insane enterprise demand, and they just cannot physically stamp them out fast enough.
Pretty much. Cook even admitted they undercalled the level of enthusiasm for the product. He thinks it will take several months to balance supply and demand. And this is all happening while they're aggressively trying to localize the supply chain.
Yeah, the U.S. production shift. Because I saw they're building an all-new advanced manufacturing center in Houston, specifically for the Mac Mini.
Bypassing overseas assembly entirely. They're actively utilizing well over 100 million advanced chips coming straight out of the new TSMC site in Arizona.
Which is an amazing geopolitical hedge. But moving supply lines like that takes time. You can't just flip a switch in Texas and fix a node bottleneck tomorrow.
No, you definitely cannot. It's a huge infrastructure pivot happening right as memory components are spiking. That puts a very hard ceiling on hardware margins going into the back half of the year.
Okay, so you have Tim Cook leaving in a few months, a totally new cash playbook, supply bottlenecks on your biggest hit product, and memory costs about to eat into margins. So where does this actually leave them heading into the rest of the year?
Well, it leaves John Ternus staring at a massive, very expensive pivot. But management is projecting confidence. Kevin Parekh guided for June revenue to grow 14 to 17% year over year, and he explicitly said that comprehends their best view of constrained supply.
Right, though they do see gross margins stepping down a bit. 47.5 to 48.5%, which I guess reflects that memory cost warning perfectly.
Exactly. But look at the longer trajectory. It is about hardware, but it is really about ownership of the entire AI cycle. They are making a huge bet on agentic edge computing, meaning they want companies running autonomous AI workloads directly on the Mac's unified memory, not in the cloud.
Which makes total sense if you have the best silicon. You keep the data local, you lean into that whole uncompromised privacy angle they love.
Sure, except we are also seeing them roll out map search ads this summer, so the privacy-first ethos might be getting a little flexible if they need to squeeze more revenue out of the ecosystem.
Wow. Yeah, that is a very fine line to walk. It feels like we're watching them rewrite the entire corporate identity in real time.
It behaves like it, too. Scrapping the old cash rules, mysterious one-off expenses, pushing ads. They're basically breaking their own commandments to make sure they do not lose the AI war.
That is perfectly put. The historic Apple rulebook is officially in the shredder, which honestly makes watching them a lot more interesting.
Definitely less predictable. I will take that over a boring quarter any day.
Fair enough. All right, that's a wrap for our look at Apple's transition quarter. Thank you so much for hanging out and making sense of the noise with us. We'll catch you after the next print. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
And hey, if you want these earnings breakdowns to just show up automatically, it's a good idea to follow the show. Just a quick reminder too, this episode is generated with the help of AI, which basically means we use language models to parse the transcripts and frame the discussion. We are always looking for real feedback, though, so shoot any ticker requests to earningsunscripted@datamadness.ca or grab the X link in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Catch you later.